This remote is what I was using for the zoom features. So you can see on the left there's a zoom in and out and then a faster version. There's a camera flip, so if I do that, you'll see the remote the right way around. There's also white balance here, which you can do in one click, a focus option, which you can do in one click. So if something does come out of focus, so if I moved and I wanted my face to be in focus, I can just go and it's focused. These directional buttons will pan the camera when you're zoomed in. So if you zoom all the way in, but you want it to be a little bit to the left or center a shot, you can. There's a power off, a mute and a lock button for obvious reasons. Also settings in the menu. So there we have image settings, network settings, settings in general, and device info if you want to play around with it. And there's some preset buttons, so you can actually set it up as a certain kind of angle or zoom that you like, and then rather than doing it manually on the remote, you can just click the preset button and it will take you there.
So let's just go ahead and start off over here onto the top. We do have the power on and off button to power on and off the camera, obviously. Next over here, we do have the mute and unmute button onto the top right hand side. Next over here, we can actually go ahead and flip the image. So just to go ahead and give you an example, if we short press it, you can see the image over here flips from one side to the next onto the monitor and onto basically whatever we're going to be live streaming to. And we do also have the lock button over here onto the right hand side that allows us to lock the whole remote control so no buttons get pressed, for an example. Here we have our direction keys, which are going to allow us to navigate throughout the menu, and we can go ahead and press this center OK button over here. That's going to allow us to obviously enter and select, confirm those menu settings. How do we enter the menu? Well, we have this button over here onto the right hand side to allow us to pull up the menu. And you'll notice over here onto your HDMI output or when you have it connected to your PC. And as you can see over here, we do have some settings as far as the image and network general settings and the device info as well. So we can go ahead and enter in the menu and use these arrow keys, for an example, to go into different options. We can come over here into image, and underneath the image, we can go ahead and adjust the brightness, contrast, saturation, hue, and the frequency, HDR, etc., etc. So similar to what we're going to have onto the PC, we have the same kind of options over here onto this wireless remote control. So just next to the menu button over here into the middle, we do have a button which is labeled as AI, which is going to enable auto framing or disable auto framing. So you can go ahead and select that right there. Over here, we do have the back button. So once we're into the menu, for an example, and we want to exit out and close it, we can just go ahead and press this back button right over here. Onto the left-hand side and onto the right-hand side, these are our zoom buttons. So for an example, the one onto the left-hand side is going to be a much faster zoom. As you can see, I'm zooming in compared to if I were to go ahead and use the right-hand side over here, which is zooming in or zooming out, but it's much slower. So depending on how you want to operate the camera as far as the zooming in, it's going to be able to do that right over here onto the left and right side. And for an example, say we are zoomed in on a subject and we want to quickly just kind of go back with one push of a button back to the widest shot, we can just go ahead and press this home button over here, and that's going to take us back to default, the home setting. Next over here, we do have this little icon which looks like a little image. This is going to allow us to change our different image profiles. So for an example, right now we're on portrait. Here we have dress. Here we have food. We have texture, outdoor, and back to standard. So in my preference, I like to use standard for my type of lighting environment that I'm going to be doing here indoors. Next over here, we do have the autofocus button. So one push of a button, you can just go ahead and tell the camera to autofocus. As far as the white balance button over here, similar, just go ahead and press it and it's going to auto white balance. Over here, we do have a bunch of buttons that are going to allow us to enable and save some presets. So we can easily configure that right over here by either just short pressing to call it up or to long press to save it, and long press to delete it.
What you're gonna find is when you click this little menu option, it's gonna be all reversed on the screen right here. We have to change that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down to setting, and then you're gonna go to subtitle mirror and turn that on. And then basically that's gonna flip it. And that allows you to shut the LED off, but now you will actually not see anything on the camera itself.
Then you've got these three preset buttons on the top of the camera. And if I just go to full screen, and I'm just going to hit preset 1, I'll just click and hold it, and you'll see on the on-screen display, it'll pop up and say set preset. Let's go back to the actual main view. If I press home, that's going to reset the zoom and push me all the way back out. If I go now to full screen, I'm going to hit preset 1, it's going to now recall that preset, which is cool. So at least you've got the option to save various presets with the camera using the remote as well. These are just sort of dialed in presets from a color, hue, saturation, brightness perspective. And by pressing this button here, it's going to cycle through a few of them. So I'm just going to come into full screen. I'm just going to cycle through. So we've got food, texture, outdoor, standard. You'll have seen throughout the video that the white balance seems to drift or shift, and it's set to auto white balance, but there is a way of actually dialing in and locking in the white balance. You can use a gray card like this, for example, which is what I would recommend for any white balance setting. And all you do is, and thanks to NearStream for pointing this out, you get your remote control and there's a white balance button here, and all you do is you just, well, you can hold up the gray card and then click and hold the white balance button, and that's going to auto calibrate. And you just wait for 4 seconds. And now the white balance is calibrated. So now when I'm moving around, the white balance isn't going to shift, and it's going to get as close as it can do in terms of setting that up. So use a gray card if you can, but moving around now is not going to shift the white balance. So every time you start the camera up, I would advise you to calibrate the white balance to your environment, and everything should look pretty good.